Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Just so everybody knows, we're running a campaign currently. We're trying to boost subscription numbers and all that on the YouTube channel. We have Keith Carter that's slated to be on the show on Sunday. You can be notified when that happens. And also, we're supposed to start having players that have transferred in on the show as well. So that way you'll be notified as well. So subscribe to the channel. It'll be a pretty good deal. Derek Vandygriff, Mr. Baseball, I might as well call him. Mr. Baseball is on the podcast to talk about Ole Miss kind of getting right a little bit, Derek.
Yeah. Starting to play a lot better. Bats really coming alive. That kind of killed us the first, 6 games or whatever it was of the year. Just weren't we were swinging everything, weren't taking our walks, and we certainly couldn't come up with the big hit, whether it be runners on base or in scoring position. And now that's not the case. You've got guys like Will Furniss and Jackson Ross hitting everything in sight right now, and not only hitting it out of the ballpark. They've been really good. Ethan Leger's just kind of done what he's done all year long. He's putting the bat on the ball. He's driving it. Good things are happening for him. Same with Ethan Groff, a guy that's been really good for the most part all year for us, and now he's sitting at the top of the lineup and really giving guys like Ross and Leger and Furniss guys to drive in. And then you've got guys that are really starting to come around too. Andrew Fisher's a guy that comes to mind. He's played really, really well these last few games. Moved up to second in the lineup here these last couple, and he seems to be coming around a good bit in this game on Wednesday against Missouri State. While we're recording this, I thought it was a really good sign. His first at bat, he came up and just poked a single through the over the shortstop to left field right there. He didn't try to do too much, didn't try to pull it, just took what the pitcher gave him. He poked it out there and got on base, and that's kind of what he's been doing right now too, on top of, again, taking his walk. So guys are starting to come around. There's a few more that still need to, but overall this offense is really coming around, and you can see it really helping the pitching staff.
Yeah, and this team right now is just kind of playing Homerun Derby, and
yeah.
if your Twitter timeline is anything like mine, it'll be something like Ole Miss wins that game 12-2, that first run rule game, but they only had 8 hits in that game. It's like most of them were home runs. And I'm like, yeah, but most of them were home runs.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was. I think it was actually 6 hits in a 12-2 win, and 4 of the 6 hits were home runs. But again, that's what you got to do when you get guys on base. It doesn't matter how you take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. Right now, we're doing it with a long ball. I think that's kind of how this lineup's built. We got a bunch of good power hitters on this team, and right now they're really showing out. So again, keep taking your walks, keep getting on base, and those big flies are going to come to where you're going to put crooked numbers up on the board.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say, my boy, he's my boy, and I want everybody to notice that he's my boy, Jackson Ross. He's from 15 minutes from my back door, up in Oxford, Mississippi, and he's just hitting home runs for fun, Kemp Alderman style.
Yeah, man, he's hammering the ball right now. That thing's the size of a beach ball every time it gets tossed up to him. It doesn't matter what you throw him, where you throw it at. He's barreling it up, and he's not really going out there chasing either. He's not sitting there searching for it. He's letting it come to him. And a big part of why he's able to get these pitches is because other guys in the lineup are also starting to perform to where they're going to have to go after Jackson at least a little bit. He's going to at least see 1 or 2 pitches, and right now 1 pitch is all he needs. If he sees one coming his way in his wheelhouse, he's not missing it. Everything's a barrel, everything's in the air, and everything's far. He's just hitting the ball really, really hard. It's good to see him acclimate to life as an SEC ball player coming from Florida Atlantic, even though we haven't played an SEC team quite yet. But, we've got a big series coming up this weekend with a really good Iowa club that I think is going to be an ultimate test for this lineup, and if they're able to keep things going.
Yeah, because the question is, the soft tossers, this is pretty much over. There's 105 coming into Oxford this weekend.
Yeah, man, it's not just Brody Brecht either. It's the entire starting rotation for Iowa. That's it's one of the best three in the entire country, led by Brody Brecht, though, kind of like you're talking about. He comes in throwing absolute gas. Now you don't always know where it's going, so it's got to be a little uncomfortable up there in the batter's box, right? When you got 101, 102 coming at you, and you're not completely sure if he's going to be able to control it or not. He's thrown 10 in the third innings already this year, and he's got 10 walks and I think one hit batter already in those 10 in the third. So he is wild, but he has struck at 22 in those 10 in the third too, though. His stuff's electric. So we're really going to have our work cut out for us, not only on Friday but Saturday and Sunday as well, with Marcus Morgan and Cade Ubermuller. Both of those guys have pitched extremely well. Iowa's big problem so far this year. They've had leads. They've played pretty well. Offense has played well. Their bullpen is atrocious, though. They've given up so many leads so far this year. Even last weekend, they played in a tournament, played Auburn, Virginia, and Wichita State, and blew leads, and one of them a pretty big lead against Virginia, but also blew a lead Friday against Auburn. So, the Rebels mindset's got to go in there, take your walks, because these guys are wild, starting with Brett. Morgan, he's not near as wild as Brecht is, but he's walked 7 and 8 2/3. And then Cade Ubermeyer, who pitches on Sunday, he's only walked 4 in 9 innings, but he's also hit 4 batters so far in 9 innings with on the year so far too. So they can be a little bit wild. You got to go up there and be patient. But if you let these guys have their way up there, then they're going to run through a lineup.
Yeah, it's kind of a Justin Bench situation. Where is he when you need him, right?
Yeah, exactly. We could definitely use him here.
Okay. Do you think this Ole Miss team, that we haven't seen any hard throwers really this season? Do you think this velocity is going to be a problem for them?
I wouldn't think it would be. We've got some guys that have played Division I baseball long enough. They've seen velocity. They've dealt with velocity. But kind of to your point, we haven't really dealt with it this year and seen what this team is going to do with it. But the good news is we're going to find out real fast Friday night, because Brecht is going, as you've said, is going to bring it over 100 miles an hour. So we're going to get a heavy dose of velocity. We're going to see how they handle it, and hopefully we handle it good enough to get a few wins here this weekend. This is a huge weekend for Ole Miss. Could end up being one that you look back on towards the end of the year if Iowa ends up being as good as they're supposed to be. Could be a really good RPI boost if you're able to take 2 out of 3 this weekend by the time it's all said and done.
I guess approach-wise, if you want to talk about Ole Miss hitters, the whole purpose, it sounds like, is to get the starters out of the game.
Yes. Yeah. You go up there, especially Friday night. You look fastball and you spit on anything spinning, right? You're not going to get beat with the fastball. Go up there, look for it. Try not to chase it out of the zone. I know it's pretty easy to say, me sitting here in my house, and I'm not going to be picking up a bat, putting on a helmet, and stepping into a batter's box against 102. But it is really important that you're really selective, make him come to you, and when he does come to you, then you make him pay. And then that goes for all 3 starters this weekend, though. We really need to work counts. We need to get those pitch counts up. We got to get into that bullpen that has been so susceptible to giving up not only a few runs, but a lot of runs thus far this year. So, that's got to be a key, and if I'm not super familiar with Iowa, like I'm sure a lot of people aren't super familiar with Iowa that follow Ole Miss baseball, but I'm going to be talking to Kyle Hoosman, who covers Iowa for On3 on Dids in the Dugout on the SEC After Dark YouTube channel. I'm hoping to get a good bit of scouting report out of him. He's watched every game with them. He covers them, so that's going to be a really good insight over on that channel. So if you don't get your dose of baseball with this show, hop over to the SC After Dark YouTube channel. You'll have that, and then you'll have me, Chad, and Hitch talking baseball as well, looking at the series.
Yeah, you're just a machine, buddy. You're just a machine. Anyway, thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And of course, go ahead and give us a subscription if you're watching this video. Keith Carter is going to be on Sunday, and we have supposed to have some players coming on fairly soon, courtesy of the Grove Collective. So give us a subscription, hit the bell for notifications so you'll know that exactly when they get there. But Derek Vandygriff, thank you very much. We'll talk to you next week, buddy.
All right, buddy. Hi, Toddy.
Hotty toddy.